Welcome back, everybody. We are the Fab Fatties, and today we are very excited because we have a special guest. But for now, I'm Allie,
Alyssa,
Rebecca,
and today we have one of my personal faves. We have Megan, the Stallion, Miss Giggles. Give it away, Megan.
For some reason knew you were gonna say that. I still wasn't ready. But I mean, hot girl Megan's represent. Come on.
yeah.
period.
We love
If
that
I
for
could
us.
be alluded to Megan the Stallion, I'm here for it. It's like Megan Fox, Megan the Stallion, and me. Trifecta of hotness.
I will admit to you guys that I have taken up every time that Megan posts something incredibly hot, which is kind of every day. Like I text her and I'm like, Megan the Stallion, stop it. So yeah, I love that for us. So we are so excited that Megan is joining us today to talk about all kinds of really fun stuff, honestly. But she is being so great in letting us ask her a whole bunch of questions that she has no idea what they are. So we're going to talk about what she does online, what she does offline, and how she got here. So let's get started.
I'm really excited to meet you.
Oh my God, I'm really excited to be on this. I actually have listened to, I think, about 7 or 8 episodes.
Oh my God.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Maybe I have trauma from past relationships. As I said, I dated a podcaster, but it's fine. They're fine. But I actually listened. I really, really enjoyed hearing all of your voices and conversations. But it's nice to put like faces to the names. And, I told Allie, I was like, yeah, like just surprise me. Honestly, I trust you guys. I want to have like open conversations with my peers. So I'm excited to see what you're gonna throw at me. But I think I'm your first guest.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're our absolute first guest. And it was an easy one. We all have been following you online for a little bit. Allie's obviously your number one fan. She name drops you all of the time, which we love. But I actually, on the way here, I pulled up on my phone. I took one of your online classes in August of last year. It was Bloom at the time. They're not Bloom anymore.
Yeah, the Plura now. Same company, but different name.
Yes, same company, different name. But I think it was like Sex and Pleasure in Larger Bodies with Miss Giggles.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, yes. Oh, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my God. No, thank you. It was such an amazing class. I sometimes hesitate with those things because I don't want to hear the same old stuff that you like you got to learn to love your body and but I felt like the class was informational. There were resources and tools and the conversation was really good. So I'm really excited to have the chance to speak to you in a more intimate setting and learn a little bit more.
Oh, yes. Okay. I love that.
Are you vibing with us? Adam and Eve wants to vibe with you too. All you have to do is go to adamandeve.com now. Adam and Eve is offering 50% off just about any item to our babes with code TFFPod. Talk about getting it up. But that's not all. When you get one item, they will also send you 3 bonus sexy items and 6 free movies. Again, just for being our Fab supporters, you can enter code TFFPOD at checkout and you'll get 50% off almost any item plus 10 free gifts. It doesn't matter how much you spend or what you buy, all will be packaged and sent discreetly for free. I think I feel tears of joy coming on. Anyway, don't forget, use our code TFFPod, that's TFFPOD at adamandeve.com, and let Adam and Eve put a smile on your face today.
I didn't realize you took a class. Now I feel the least connected, but I have been following you online for a while.
It's okay. It's okay. There's time.
I'm the bad student.
No, you're not the bad
Not at
student.
all.
I really, the biggest thing I came in eager today to kind of want to ask you and connect about is what started this work for you, this journey? Like what was your relationship with your body growing up and how did that evolve over the years? Like basically your timeline really of getting into this and the place you are now.
I think, hang on one second. I think just before we get into that, because that is honestly that I want to know that very much so. But for our viewers and for our listeners, let's just go a little bit into who you are now.
Okay, that's fair.
And because you discussed the class that you took. So being that you are a sex positive creator, an influencer, a social media manager, basically just a professional badass, if you could just kind of give our viewers and our listeners a little bit of a synopsis of all things Miss Giggles, so that we can then get the timeline, the story of how we got to you.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fair. I don't want to assume that everyone knows who I am. So, hello, everyone, audience. If you're listening today, my name is Megan. I am first and foremost, my full-time job is social media management, brand consulting, but I currently have been a fat positive influencer for 9+ years on the internet. You know, and so I currently specialize in doing a lot of content that previous years ago felt very taboo. Definitely was in not in the mainstream, and it really showcased what I like to say is kind of referencing like the life and the existence that I wish all fat people have. Like my goal is to not only provide acceptance and education and a basis of like fat positivity, but it also is a place where I want everyone to know that not only can you survive in a fat body, you can also thrive. So all of my content focuses and explores that positioning. And I think for me, coming from a place previously where I didn't necessarily feel that, or I didn't feel like it was represented on the internet, a big pillar of mine is to always lead with the word authenticity, to always have truthful conversations with my following, and to basically just do whatever the fuck I want. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, but
Oh
Oh,
yeah, go for it.
100%. Yeah.
I love that.
yeah. So a little bit chaotic, like Ali said, like I do a little bit of everything because I don't like boxes. And that definitely is clearly shown with everything and anything I do. I'm a professional sexy person and I'm a professional person. I have chaotic bisexual energy. I date hot people. I do hot girl shit all the time, travel the world.
Period.
I love this so much.
I like the fact that like I get to do all of that and also meet and talk to and create connections with really cool people all the time, like you guys.
Oh, that's awesome. One of the things that I noticed with what you're saying is you chose to use the word fat positive, and I online we see people say like body positivity, body neutrality, fat liberation. Why do you think fat positive was the word that most felt authentic to you?
I mean, I have and always have been for the fat cuties. Like my priority is and will always be for the fat community. I hope that it expands into other communities, especially possibly intertwining with people who might identify as body acceptance, body positivity.
Mhm.
But like, I don't think that we get there until we advocate and also highlight the most at risk in our communities. And I say that
Mhm.
with marginalizations and privileges, understanding my own. But like, I first and foremost want to and have always used that word when we've expanded into the huge increase of body positivity. I'm like, yeah, I'm cool with that, but like I actually am for, acceptance and neutrality and for fat people feeling as though they're allowed to be centered in a place where we should be centered.
Mm. Yeah.
I love that so much. I love
Yeah.
all of that. I do want to ask just a little bit about, you said you're a professional person, a professional sexy person. Can you tell us just a little bit more about being a professional sexy person as it pertains to, um, I don't know, being a professional sexy person in your fat body. And I did share with the girls, and to our viewers and whatever that you create sex positive content as well. And I'd love to know kind of what that's like. Um, yeah, I think that's the end of it. Period. That's the end of my question. What's that like?
Yeah, I mean, I feel as though like I consider myself a sex geek because I technically do not have a degree in sex education and I don't want to, falsify any understanding, but I definitely am somebody who is constantly learning and exploring and looking to participate in communities that center around sexuality, gender, and, queer identities. So for me, it really just has become expansive of that because I started modeling against my will at like 22, 23. I say against my will in a sweet way because all of my friends were creatives. And everyone and anyone needs somebody in front of their camera or to paint. And eventually it was like, well, Megan's here. I guess we'll just have her do it. And, after a couple of years, I was like, oh, she's actually kind of good at it. And then
Yeah.
from then, through having a platform, I realized I really, really enjoyed self-photography. And it actually helped me come into a place to fight my body dysmorphia.
Mhm.
So creating photos of myself, seeing myself in a positive setting, was something that I felt positively about, that I truly was creating art. And because I am a sensual and sexual person, I really felt like I could adapt and create content that felt uniquely mine and also kind of hot. With my fat body, the way,
Kind of.
it's subjective, Allie. Not everyone's obsessed with me. I have to talk to the people,
And
Well,
not
they're
everyone's
wrong.
obsessed with themselves.
There's nothing wrong with being obsessed with yourself.
There's-
And
there's-
Megan will back me up on
No,
that.
there's absolutely not. Because actually, that was going to be the next question I had for you is what is it like being such a public person who is putting themselves out there as embracing their sexuality, but not just embracing their sexuality, like acknowledging that they bring a lot of value to that sexual space, like, or that they are a hot sexual person. Because Allie and I recently talked, she was called arrogant. And I said, okay, well, what makes you arrogant? The fact that you're not apologizing for being what you see as a hot, attractive, vocal, your voice gets to be heard. Like, if that's arrogance, then I think we're okay with it. But I wonder, like, what kind of reception do you get for owning it so boldly?
Yeah, let me address that last part where, I kind of love that you were called arrogant, because
Me
I
too.
feel like us who exist in bodies that would be othered or exist in marginalities, the fact that we don't hate ourselves already can be manipulated into something that's negative because people are trying to bring us down. And for
Yeah.
me, because I allude from a place where I'm self-accepting of myself, and I walk into a room and I'm not shying away, I am okay with being the center of attention, I have been called arrogant, or also simply just able to defend myself, and I've been called arrogant.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's another word that has been weaponized against us, just like unhealthy, just like, a variety of different topics where it's like, oh, how dare you have a sense of self when you exist in a body like yours? But to go back to the question that you asked, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think that I exist in this space in the way that I am because I cannot exist any other way. It is
Mm.
who I am, and it is something that I am very open, and that I think makes me an interesting, unique person. But existing hot and creating that content on the internet has been extremely difficult. I've had at least 8 different accounts deleted, over the past 8 or 9 years. I've had a lot of my work, deleted. I've had a lot of my work diminished, like, as a person who does a lot of work professionally outside of sex positivity, I feel like the first thing that sometimes people will do to me is be like, "Oh, well, she's just somebody who takes hot photos on the internet." And
Yeah.
it's like, well, the
Yeah.
work speaks for itself that I do otherwise, but people do love to shove you into boxes.
Yeah.
Mm.
And, I had this thought about 6 or 7 years ago, because I do work in marketing, and, I wanted to invest in being an internet person for a little bit. And I had to sit down and I was like, you can either be extremely successful and hide parts of yourself and hide parts of the content you want to make, or you can choose to live openly and honestly and make the content you actually think needs to be in the world and not have nearly the success that you should. And so I made that decision knowing full well, because of the stigmas and because of the internet not wanting people like me to exist, that I will choose the road of activism over influencer. And I definitely have chosen correctly. I cannot imagine existing any other way or shutting down my voice,
I
because your
love that.
voice in this world is really what matters.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. I love that so much. I think this would be a great time to now get back to your original question of how did we get here? How did we get here, right? Because I think for the three of us, we're still on journeys. And we're all at different parts in our journeys. And I think that the journey doesn't really stop, because you're continuing to grow, you're continuing to learn. But, you know, we talk about a lot on this podcast how, you know, our younger days, our earlier years, our formative years, really affected us with the messaging and the toxic, you know, just the diet culture and the this and the that got us to where we are today of fighting back, right? Um, I would love to know more about your story of how you got here.
Yeah, I mean it's a story, all right. So I'm first generation American. My father was came over from asylum for Guatemala. My mom had me at 16. You know, I'm the first person in 5 generations to not have a child under the age of 20. Was definitely something that I actively chose. And, you know, I think that growing up with a plus size mother who hated their body, it's almost like you can't avoid absorbing some of those
Yeah.
ideas, thoughts, processes. And, you know, I think for me, I can't remember a time past preteen where I wasn't trying to make myself smaller.
Yeah.
And, you know, it started as early as 7 or 8, thinking about the way I look, thinking about the way I navigated the world, and then just expanded from there. I mean, the first time I was on a diet, I was 10 years old and I was going to Weight Watchers. And
Mm.
then, you know, I got to the point where I was playing 3 varsity sports in a size 16 body and going to doctors, and they were telling me that I wasn't eating enough, even though, you know, some of my blood work wasn't correct. And, you know, I think that for me, I spent a lot of my life, instead of caring about everything else going on in my life, only caring about what was on my plate, how many calories I was eating, and how could I eventually make myself into an attractive human being.
Yeah.
Which is so funny looking back at it now and looking, you know, really thinking that, like, I at one point think that, like, I and my brain thought that no one would love me. Nobody would want
Yeah.
to date me because of existing in a larger body. And so, you know, that definitely translated into the way I treated myself and the way that I entered into relationships. And you know, I eventually did come to the conclusion that I was suffering from an eating disorder. I was suffering from body dysmorphia because I had moments where I didn't know my own body. I didn't know how big I was, where I didn't think I could sit on, you know, certain ledges or chairs because I thought that they would just break, which, you know, could have been the possibility, but like that was the way I was navigating every single day. And, you know, it took, you know, sadly, my best friend, growing up at 25, actually died from an eating disorder.
Mm.
Oh,
And
I'm
a
so
couple of
sorry.
months before, thank you, I actually passed out in a supermarket. So, you know, I think that having that happen was a kind of like, not that I'm religious, but come to Jesus moment
Yeah.
where I think that like I realized something had to change. And I also my mom, definitely impacted some of that, where I took a break from her. I took a break from hearing what she was doing, having those voices, and the yo-yo-yo dieting nonstop, and finally moving out on my own, finishing college, moving to a new place. It really made me realize that maybe it's okay to be in a larger body, but even if it isn't, I've already tried making myself smaller. It isn't
Mhm.
happening.
Yeah.
So, you know, I either get to choose to accept the way that I look and try to get some semblance of happiness, or I decide that it's never going to be okay. It's never going to be enough. And I'm literally accepting to be miserable for the every single day for the rest of my life. So I chose happiness. And so I really went to a place where I was like, well, fake it to make it. And, you know, it was like, well, I have to learn how to accept myself the way that I look now. And from creating my platform and from finding community and creating art and being surrounded by people who look like me and also were having wonderful experiences, wonderful relationships, having professional success, that's how I learned to not only accept myself, but eventually be like, fuck yeah, like I'm awesome. And also I look awesome. But that's not all that matters. Like I can have an awesome life now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
I feel you both looking at me right now.
Well, so much of what you just shared in your story are things that we know of Alyssa's lived experiences that we just think you probably relate a lot to what she discussed. And
Yeah.
I there's really no convincing someone that hates fat people that choosing happiness is the right choice. Like, I don't think so. But for us sitting here in this room, hearing that the alternative to what choices you've made that led you here literally would be your body breaking down and you being sick from not feeding yourself and you limiting what experiences you get to have. To us, we understand that those are all choices we have made in the past,
Yeah.
and those are all choices we've worked our way away from because we know we weren't living life and we know we were choosing self-harm, and to hear this moment where you really were presented with this choice of, or with this awareness of, okay, if I continue down this pathway, what will my life be? And I just think that there's people out there that will never understand that to choose to live a joyful life in our current bodies is the biggest freedom we've ever given ourselves. Like I do think that's something some people will never understand, and yet we understand the value. Like we understand how life changing it is to say I am choosing to live my life, and yeah, the stuff you just said made me think of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the crier of the group, so I'm like really taking a minute here to like keep it together, but I'm really sorry for the loss of your friend, and it's a really tough community for sure, but I think I'm so emotional right now because the eating disorder world is really hard to navigate in a plus size body to begin with, right? So, um yeah. So I think that in itself, hearing some of your experience, I'm like, yeah, it's like really rough out here. And it's really hard to connect with people who like understand in a larger body. And also I feel like a little sense of hope. I still really much struggle with the self-harm thoughts with the eating disorder. Those are really loud and it serves a completely even different purpose sometimes than the eating disorder itself. Like starting to restrict so much just to achieve a body that people, it's more digestible for them. And then also starting to like thrive in that place of like hunger and self-hate and, all of the toxic eating disorder thoughts. So yeah, I just knowing and seeing where you are now online and hearing where you've come from, it's really beautiful and very hopeful. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do think that I'm so glad that you know that you understand probably better than most. But if I can say anything, I'm like, recovery is worth it. And it's not easy. I had a follower recently who lives in Jersey City that I know is struggling and lives in a larger body and is, constantly trying to figure out how to navigate. And they're like, how does intuitive eating work? Like, how do I get to that point? And I'm like, you get to that point when you stop thinking about food. Like when you don't spend every single day thinking about the calories in and the calories out, and your body just tells you what it wants. And I remember, I think it took me about 3 or 4 years to get to that place where my body would just be like, okay, you have low iron. I think it's time to eat some protein. Okay, like I think you need something sweet. Like here's a bite of a cookie. Like, oh, like you need more greens, like you need energy. And I think that was the craziest thing because I heard people talk about it and I heard, and then eventually it happened to me and I was like, wait, your body will just tell you what it needs instead of just being in this like starvation mode or like this like excess or decreasing mode. But I think it is so hard, like you said, navigating in this space because I mean, when I was on a very particular diet, and I think I was eating about like 700 calories a day, All red flags. And I lost a dramatic amount of weight, and the amount of positive reinforcement that I received during that time was addicting.
Yep.
And I get that when people talk to me about, like, obviously we have the Monjaro, and it definitely feels like we're circling back right into diet culture. It's rearing its head. And for me, I'm like, I understand why it's so alluring, and why, if you feel as though like this is what you need to do, it's what you need to do. But for me, I just want people to get to a point where they feel like that they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always going to lead from a place of your body, your choice across the board,
Yeah.
right? Like that's for me. And we can have different opinions on that. But as somebody whose entire brain keeps telling them that they can only exist by making themselves smaller, I get the allure of that, because it's fucking hard navigating the world as a fat person. Like,
Yeah.
anyone telling you otherwise is bullshitting you. It's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And that's why creating spaces like this, having conversations, is so important, because we need each other.
Mhm.
And leading with education and leading with conversations is the only way that people are going to understand. But I do think that, like, the eating disorder world as a plus size person has been some of the most horrifying on the internet spaces and otherwise than I've ever seen. I mean, I have conversations about ED, and I personally have never suffered from a binge eating disorder. There's no shame in that whatsoever. I just want to preface that. I just have a type A personality, and my eating disorder definitely types into that neuroses. So, from anorexia, and the amount of assumptions of what you suffer from, what you're doing. And I'm like, no, I have a lot of obsessive compulsive tendencies. So literally was, for me, controlling every single thing that went in my body, and then counting down every single calorie lost, because I've always been very athletic and
Yeah.
I like to work out. But yeah, like, I feel as though, like, we need to talk about what it's like to actually get to a place where that healthy for you is no longer dieting. And that's my journey for me. Healthy for me, like, I cannot be on a diet. Like, I know that for myself. I cannot limit or control what I'm eating. And the world does not know what to do with that, but yet makes assumptions. I mean, yesterday I was at a Mother's Day buffet with 7 people. And I was the only plus size person at the table. And someone made a comment to me that was like, oh, well, Megan has the most control. She's eaten the healthiest out of all of us.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and I was like, you might think that you're saying something kind there, when in actually you are just triggering my eating disorder.
Right.
Yeah.
The gaze on my plate. Please, eyes off.
Yeah.
Concentrate on your own plate, and I'll concentrate on mine.
Yeah.
And I live by that. Like, you'll never see me make comments ever about what somebody else is eating. And I think that that's a rule that we all should accept.
Hey friends, do you want to contribute your stories, questions, or topic ideas to the pod? You can now submit written, audio, or video content to us for consideration in a future episode. You can find the link in our show notes as well as in the bio of our Instagram page. Hope to hear from you soon.
The only time I will make comments on what someone else is eating is when I'm like, can I have some?
Yeah, I was gonna say, that looks
Like,
real good.
What did you order? Can I have some?
I discussed this with my partner, where, like, I grew up in families that all have family meals. Like, there is no, your plate is your food, their plate
Yeah.
is their food. Like, I didn't grow up in cultures like that. I grew up, with Taiwanese, with Spanish culture. So I don't understand that whole mentality. So, like,
fair.
I can only date people where we order together. Like,
I love
like
that.
your meal is my meal is your meal. We're ordering so that we get a taste of.
Billy, do you hear that? They order together. My husband does not know how to share. I always am like, I want to try a bunch of everything. Billy's like, no, no, no. My plate, your plate. If we had an appetizer, we can share.
You know,
I
I feel
thought
hate it.
Billy a
Billy
little
was
bit on
so
that.
great, but Billy just
I know he goes down a tier.
sorry,
I know.
Billy.
I am a good sharer, but as someone who had siblings and like literally had to watch the ladle of the macaroni and make sure we're all evenly getting the same amount, like I feel Billy a little bit because, you know, listen, my sister would give herself an extra scoop. We had to watch her with all both of our
But then again, so the other day we posted this vlog.
Yeah, I just thought about that too.
We posted this vlog of like what we did last week and what we got up to, and we had the opportunity to go check out this restaurant here in the Charlotte area. They were very very kind to invite us. Shout out to Montebella. We had a great time, and within minutes of posting this video, where Rebecca and I enjoyed this gorgeous Italian lunch. It was so great. It was so delicious. And Rebecca's one of my best friends. Okay. We're sitting there eating out of the same plates, having a great conversation, having a great meal together, just living the life. Within minutes of posting this vlog, leaves 3 comments consecutively like, I cannot watch you girls. She called us girls. I cannot watch you girls eat off of the same plate. They gave you little plates. Use the plates they gave you. Like, I cannot watch you do this. I cannot watch. I'm like, well, fucking don't watch. But it's like, it's not just that. Like, they're monitoring what's on our plates. They're monitoring the way that we eat off of our plates. And it's like, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I love your perspective of it. If it's just like, you'd rather I be miserable and live your life the way that you perceive that I should be living, or I'm just gonna say fuck it and be happy and eat off your plate. Thank you very much.
I mean, I think you nailed on that. Where I mean, existing on the internet, I create food content as well, where it's not like anything besides me looking gorgeous, eating a beautiful meal, and that's it. And yet people will lose their
You're
fucking mind.
welcome.
But you know, I think that you nailed it. Where like people cannot help but comment on other people's eating styles or food intake. Like they cannot help it. I think the internet literally thrives because people feel like they are entitled to their opinions and that other people give a shit about their opinions. And let me
Yeah.
just say, I could not give 2 fucks if you care if I'm eating into a fucking bowl with my friends. We have the same germs, okay, everyone? Did we
Right.
learn this COVID? We're
I do have a
literally
question.
next to each other.
Yeah, I do have a question about that because what I'm finding as I continue like exploring my own style and stuff, and our styles are all evolving. Like I've noticed that I've started liking putting together more sexier outfits, right? And that
Oh, I
I
love
know
it so much.
on the edge, you know.
I love it so much.
What I find though is I don't like the way people talk to me about myself in sexy outfits. And it can go both ways, you know, whether it's what they perceive as a positive comment or someone trying to say negative things about me dressing the way I am. And I do think there's this weird thing, and you talked about kind of the positive reinforcement you get when you're displaying you trying to lose weight, right? We get a lot of reinforcement, either negative or positive reinforcement, just because we exist in this place where everyone's telling us their thoughts all the time, you know? And I wonder how you deal with that. Like, how I'm sure you get a ton of positive comments about your sexy content, but how do you separate or navigate that with your own feelings of, is this sexy for me?
Let me say this. I think existing with the platform for the past 9 years, I ignore comments if I think that they're not serving me or they're not from a place of like criticism that actually is based in reality. Like I'm very open to criticism and I'm very accepting of criticism, but like if it simply is just fetishizing me or, you know, putting me into a space that the content wasn't necessarily meant for, I delete and I move on. And
Mhm.
I think that that's the healthiest advice I can give to people who are creating content and have a platform and are influencing a large. I'm like, do not let other people ruin your experience. If you are enjoying making that content and you are finding value from it, like you're allowed to center yourself and your needs. Like your platform is your own. Like it's not a community page, it's not a freaking news. Like when people try to tell you what you should or should not be posting on your platform, I'm like, that's all well and good. Why don't you do that on your own platform? But I think like for me, learning that like I am not meant for everyone, and I'm also not going to sadly get into every precise algorithm I want to get into with each piece of content. And that's not really up to me. I wish it was. I wish we could find ways where we can actually get to the people we want to get to that need
Yeah.
the content instead of either being like people who hate us or people just want to fuck us because they find us hot.
Yep.
Sometimes it feels like there is no in between, but I can promise you there is a between. And so concentrating on that, deleting what doesn't work for you, commenting on the ones that you do think are what you're looking forward, and keeping it moving. I'm like, keep posting, keeping it moving. Like, don't dwell on shit that doesn't actually deal with you and doesn't need to affect you.
Yeah.
That's fair.
How did you figure out how did you figure out what is sexy to you? What you find sexy for yourself and what you like to put out there as your version of sexy?
Oh, that's a good question. I think what I found what is sexy to me is trying a bunch of stuff
Mhm.
and then seeing what felt exciting, positive, and a reflection of myself as a human being. And I am a firm believer that it kind of is like a trial by fire, obviously doing things that you feel comfortable with, and consent is key there. But like, I felt like I probably felt really silly taking my first lewd. I mean, I didn't just
Yeah.
wake up one day and be like, "Oh, I'm a hot bitch," and like everything I take is amazing. And so definitely practice makes perfect there. The more that you do something, the more comfortable you're going to get at it. So, I think for me, like setting time for myself and setting with time to explore that sexiness only for myself, and then other people can enjoy it. So like doing things for me, like sexiness is a part of that. And then if the people are lucky, they can get a little bit of that. But like I think knowing and tapping into my, let's say, femininity and also my masculinity helped me find my sexiness, where I'm like, I have strong features, I have a strong personality, but I have extremely feminine body, and finding ways to manipulate that and finding ways to like accentuate those things kind of at play with one another really helps me create the art. And that also like having really supportive partners that don't necessarily fetishize me, but also make me believe that I am one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful person in the world. It could be a lie. I mean, I don't care, but like as long
It's
as they
not.
make me feel that way, Kelly is like, I will marry you right now. Like I will, whoever I'm dating, it doesn't matter.
But I know where I lie. I'm under Todd. Like Todd's number one fan. I'm number two. It's fine. It's fine.
Any man tries to get sassy to me, I'm like, you know that there's like a waiting list, right? Like, calm your fucking self.
Oh my
I
God,
got
I
a bench,
love
bro.
that.
Yeah. Only the mean, only the weird ones, though. Everyone else, I'm very nice to. I promise, guys. I promise I'm a nice person if you're listening to this. The Miss Giggles persona is a little bit more direct than the Megan one.
Listen, we don't owe anyone nice though. It's fine.
Oh, not nice. I think I'm more fair. I don't like to describe myself as nice. I'm a very fair human, and I hate rudeness.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
I
when
love
people
that.
are rude to me, it's like triggering. I'm like, oh no, I need to humble you right now.
I love that so much. I'm gonna borrow that from you. I feel like I've borrowed a lot from you. Thank you so much. But I think I'm gonna borrow that from you because I think that that's something that I'll be totally honest. I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with our viewers. You guys already know this, but like last week was hard. I had a day on Friday where we posted the vlog, and we had another reaction video that was posted about us, and it was just a day that most days, 9 times out of 10 days, I know who the fuck I am. I know you can't tell me shit, right? But there are those, 1 out of 10 that it gets to me, right? That it gets to me. And it was the day that, we got that comment that Allie is the most arrogant and annoying one out of all of them. And we got the, oh my God, I can't watch you eat off of each other's plates anymore. And we got this whole video that was gaslighting the shit out of us because it's like, who are these imaginary people that you think are judging you? Ma'am, you made an hour-long video about us. You idiot. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, it was a day. It was a day. And I called Rebecca. I called Rebecca. She answers. And before I could even say anything, she goes, "Are you crying?" I was like, "Yes."
Me navigating emotions is scary. I'm like, are you having big emotions?
I was like, "Yes," and I'm sorry. But like, I think wrapping all that into one conscious stream of thought, I guess, is a lot of that was wrapped up in, I think a lot of that was in the people thinking I'm arrogant, and just overall feeling very bullied by the internet that day, and wanting to clap back, but not wanting to feed into these things, and then trying to convince myself of who I am. I'm like, I am so kind, I'm so nice, I'm so all these things. And then I'm like, but if people think I'm arrogant and I'm annoying, maybe I'm not as kind and nice as I think I am.
Is it
right?
true?
Is it true? But I really like that. Maybe I'm not nice, but I'm fair. I treat the people I love. I mean, I get, you guys can vouch for me. I don't know, but
I
like,
mean, you're all right.
I don't know. Like the people I love feel loved by me, right?
And you're not, and yeah, it's not just people you love. You are nice to people in general
Who deserve it.
who are kind and going about their business
I'm
as
fair.
normal humans, right?
Yeah.
It's when people come in, you don't feel like you owe them nice kindness if they
Yes.
are not approaching you with the same respect.
Yeah.
I'm fair. Thank you, Megan. I really appreciate that. And I'm gonna get that tattooed on my ass.
Oh, I love it. Okay, 7 ticks. No, I think that that's helped me navigate because I think, like you said, I feel like because we have big personalities, because, we're definitely, I mean, you've done comedy, I have not, but I just have one of those personalities where I can public speak, I
Yeah.
can lead conversations, lead courses. And so, I feel like that is something that people aren't used to. And so the immediate reaction has to be a negative one because they do not know where to put you. And
Yeah.
so they put you into a negative space. And I feel like, especially for me from a professional post, like I have been the only plus size person in a room of like 200 people.
Yeah.
And there comes connotations with that. And so I think that like to have success in all of my fields, I have definitely approached it from the like, listen, I don't need to be bossy. I also don't need to be nice. I just want people to know that they can come to me and get a fair and precise response, and that I'm not going to blow up, and I'm also just not going to be somebody that they can kick around.
Yeah.
And that I've translated onto the internet because being a plus size person on the internet is fucking exhausting. And it comes to a point where, yes, you want success, you want people to see your content, but any single time that something starts generating views, in the back of your mind, within 5 minutes, you're going to tell people, you're going to have people literally commenting negatively on every single facet of your life.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, especially as all of you continue on this road and continues from somebody who's an elder influencer or, has been on the internet space for a long time. It's like, you are going to never stop getting that.
Yeah.
And the only thing that you can control is your response to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and if you're getting that, like for me, it means you're doing something right. Like somebody taking the time to make a response video about you means you're doing something right. And that's what I want to tell all of you.
Yeah.
It means our message is getting out there, right? And it
Yeah.
means it's a threatening message in some kind of way. It's pushing back against some ideals that we want to push back against, right? And so it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's
Yeah.
just they're not our audience, and their audience is unfortunately there to tear us down. But like they go do that in your little spider web corner of the internet,
What were you gonna say?
I'm really interested in your response, and it's a hard question. So if you don't know, that's also okay. But something that I've started to do since I've recovered and coming from the eating disorder world where I don't necessarily feel represented in a larger body, I've been asking the question and wanting to find out, how do we get people who are not fat to also understand and do their part in the work?
Within the eating disorder space.
Within the inclusivity space of folks in larger bodies, and I mean, that could be anything from, accessible seating at theaters and on planes and, in schools. Like, I'm just getting people to understand that, one, fat does not equal unhealthy, and two, spaces aren't necessarily welcome and inviting of us, and the shame and everything that kind of comes along with it. I've really been trying to figure out how you get people who did not have this lived experience to understand and want to support in the work.
I think that's a great question. And I think the only answer I can give you is to show them, is to have the conversations and to have the hard conversations with your peers. And it's not just doing it on the internet, it legitimately is doing it around the people around you. And I have these hard conversations, and I also have conversations and experiences that are beautiful. I mean, my partner is a thin, smaller human, and ever since dating me, he will be the first person to look at a table that we're about to sit on, look at the chairs and be like, these are not good chairs, let's sit somewhere else. Or like, he'll just immediately, without even asking me, offer me the more comfortable chair, or like pull out the table.
I love
And that's
that.
just from living with me and understanding that I navigate the world in a different space. And I also think it's important to have those conversations that are difficult. I mean, I currently am around somebody who is older and still very much absorbed into diet culture. And, they recently had a conversation about like losing weight and being excited about that and like finally looking better. And I had to be like, you always looked good. And I just want to reiterate that. Like, I'm not going to fix them overnight. I'm not going to change, but I want to be like, you have always looked good. I'm glad that you're feeling better in your body, but I want to make sure that you understand that like that had nothing to do with the way that you navigate the world
Yeah.
and that you have always had worth. But in order to, people only understand the things that they see, like anything. So the more that they see the differences between navigating the world, the more that we have these conversations, the more acceptance there will be. But it's hard to get stubborn people who have accepted that this is the status quo, right? To finally understand. And so I'm always coming from a place where if you're entering a space or you're creating a space and everyone looks like you, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you should be always looking to create a space that reflects not the world that you live in, but the world that you want to live in. And we only get there through diversity and inclusion and making sure that all people feel accepted into a space that you're creating. And I feel like anything else, especially with health and medical, one of the worst places for fat phobia is those spaces. So it's going to take the most work, but we can't scare away possible allies. We need to accept that, like, we need to get away from this black and white and have the hard conversations.
Yeah.
I love that answer.
I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna start wrapping us up here, and I would love to see or love to ask you guys now. One of our favorite questions when we wrap up our interview episodes is, what are you guys taking away? What are we taking away? From our interview with you, Megan. What are we taking away about Megan, and what would we want our listeners and our viewers to take away? Who wants to go first?
I love how Alyssa's looking at me like, bitch, you. I mean, of course, I'm sitting here thinking about what you just shared, right? And so that is sticking out in my mind. And what that does leave me with is kind of this idea of, and this could be applied to anything, allyship, but also like our own growth. It's not going to be perfect, and it's not going to be day night. It's not going to have a clean line of we have it and we don't, or they got it fully, they understand fully, or they don't. It is much more that it is slowly chipped away at and slowly built. The more we are willing to show up and authentically deal with it, right? And the more we're willing to kind of put ourselves on the line. And I do think there's a sense of you and you've put yourself on the line. And I think that is also what we're doing. And it's, you're having to be vulnerable. You're putting yourself in a space knowing that it's not going to be fully positive, right? But valuing yourself, valuing the representation, valuing that kind of content enough to be willing to do so. And it doesn't come without consequence, right? Like I think you've done it and there's some consequence. But the hopeful idea is that because you value it so much, you said something of like, this is who I am, right? So the idea is you're choosing to be who you are over any of what the consequences could be. And I think that's a really valuable thing for me to walk away with and just kind of know like, yeah, there's consequences. I might lose followers. I might have family that's less comfortable with me. But hopefully that alignment with myself gives me so much safety and joy that it is worth the consequence.
I love that.
Yeah. I don't want to cry again. So I'm going to.
Well, babe, you do it. You really struggle with
I
that.
know.
You made me cry earlier. So.
I know. I felt it too. I wasn't going to put you on the spot because I was already embarrassed enough for myself.
Don't be embarrassed of crying.
Don't be embarrassed.
I can't cry every episode.
It's not
can't
every
cry.
episode.
It's
like
almost every
other one.
episode, Megan. It's almost every episode. I think for me personally, it's really nice to have some hope. I think often in the world in which I'm thinking of that TikTok sound right now, like the asylum I grew up in, of Taylor Swift song.
Swift, yeah.
I'm like, the asylum I grew up in was a really, really rough place for a young, fat kid to be in. And while I've been doing this work, you just find a new bottom. Every time you just keep finding, you really think you hit the bottom, and then you do some more work and you just keep going. And while I have had days where the sun is out and I feel like I'm out of the hole and I feel so good, then I'm still battling with the restriction and the thoughts and the, just like all of the emotional baggage that comes along with it. And you gave me like a really great sense of hope today, because someone who's been following your content and it has helped me, it's helped my body dysmorphia. And I've also started doing the same thing of posting pictures and taking up this space. And I just feel a sense of hope, purpose personally. So I think that's going to be my biggest takeaway. And I think as far as people taking away from the episode, you were just so authentic and raw. And I am like captivated listening to you when you speak. I think you speak so eloquently. I think you are someone who has done the work personally, and you're showing up and you're doing that in your own way. And I think that's amazing. And I just really enjoy the chance to, talk to you, dissect your brain a little bit, and, hopefully be able to take some of that and continue to do that work on our platforms.
Oh my goodness, that is so incredibly kind. Thank you. I appreciate that immensely. And yeah, I mean, if you ever want to chat, side note, off the internet or DMs, like I'm happy to talk about any of those feelings, or talk about, what it feels like when you're really at the bottom and you're just crawling through, and ways to kind of get your mind out of that. So yeah,
Well,
like
thank you.
separately, yeah, please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you so much.
Like you said, it's a journey, and I'm not like this every day either. It is constantly, you're in recovery for the rest of your life, right? And
Yeah.
it's something that we just say.
So, and this is what got me crying, and I'm going to try and not cry right now, but I think I don't mean to like, if this feels infantilizing at all, please tell me and I'll rewind. But I
don't know what that word means.
Okay.
Making you feel like a little baby, a little kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I also got emotional because I also felt that sense of hope for you, because I didn't know as in depth of your story, right? Um, because I think you guys know, and for our viewers and our listeners, Megan, you probably know this by this point, but I would not be sitting here. I would not be who I am right now without your platform. And I need you desperately to know that. So I know that we joke about how obsessed I am with you, but I truly wouldn't be. I truly would not be. You were the first person I found that really showed up the way I wanted to show up for myself. And when I first started following you, you fucking scared the shit out of me. I was like, how is this? This isn't what they said we were supposed to do. This is against everything I've been told, right? And it scared the shit out of me. But the more I followed you and the more that your voice started replacing society's voice, it changed everything for me. And then being in fat community and I mean, shit, I drove 3 hours out of my way on a road trip to come meet you just because I knew I had to. I knew I had
And
to,
now
but
we're in a group chat. See, it worked out.
I love that for me so much. But I just, I do feel like I know a lot about you, but I didn't know that in-depth story, right? And because you guys have that connection through eating disorder recovery, I did get a little emotional because it did give me hope for you. And just because you're one of my best friends, like I see where she is and where she came from, and I know where you are in your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm getting emotional again. Like I have so much hope for you right now because of where Megan is. And God, Jesus Christ. Like I just
And
can't
try to
wait
forgive me
until
crying, and I never cry.
oh God. No, I used to never cry, and then like one
Yeah, now
day
I'm just a basket case.
I
That's the new bottom for me. I just cry. I cry at everything. I'm crying at work. I'm crying in the car. I'm crying in therapy.
I don't cry at all. And they're like, cry. And I'm like, I can't. It's not going to happen.
That's okay.
I only cry when I'm alone on the toilet. We've already discussed this.
Titanic,
No. Watching dog and cat videos.
Oh
exactly.
my God.
Help us all.
Oh my God. So yeah, that's what I'm taking away is just you continue to fill me full of hope. And for our viewers and our listeners, if you're not following Megan, you need to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's plug your social media.
Absolutely. And whether you're in a body that looks like ours or not, just for your own goddamn peace of mind. Like if you want to feel amazing about yourself and who you are as a person and feel self-assured every day, go follow Megan. You need to go follow Megan immediately.
Oh my
That's what
goodness,
I
I
want
don't know if I
people to
can
take away.
live to this hype. I'm like, oh God.
Well, I was going to say, and the thing is like you do that through just living your life, right?
Yeah.
Like you do that through living your life and showing different kinds of viewpoints and thoughts you can have versus, what a lot of us were taught as children. So it's not even like you really have to do some crazy thing out there to affect this change. It's literally just living your life and showing up for yourself. And that in itself is inspiring. So.
Yeah. Megan, what about you? What do you want listeners, viewers to take away from your interview episode?
Oh my God, I can't even. I mean, I hope that they take away that community is everything. And, I think it's so important to find your communities. I wouldn't be here without communities like this. I couldn't have found the light at the end of the tunnel if I didn't find people who inspired me to exist the way that I live now.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so without those people, and I feel so honored to be a person that people think of when they think of a fat person thriving. Like that brings tears to my eyes at this point. And I don't feel that way all the time. I definitely have those moments, and because we're all human, I hope that we realize that it's okay to have those moments. But I think the takeaway is that like having conversations, finding your place within the world, understanding that that place is not going to come by easy and you have to fight tooth and nail for it. But I promise you everything, it's going to be worth it.
I love that.
Oh.
I love it. All right. Where can we find you? Where can our viewers and our listeners find you?
Okay, so everyone, you can find Megan the Stallion 2.0 with not a better ass, but a bigger one at least. At Miss Giggles at MSGIGGGLES on Instagram. I think I'm Hey Miss Giggles on TikTok, but I don't like TikTok, so don't even follow me there.
Fair.
And my business is Socially Deviant Media if you need social help. But yeah, please let me know if you found me through this episode because I'll definitely send a DM.
Amazing.
Love it.
Amazing.
It was such a pleasure to meet you and get to speak with you today in this setting. So thank you so much for joining us.
was
I
great
hope
hanging
I
with
join you
you.
guys for a meal. I'm like, I'll definitely come down.
Yeah.
Yes,
You have a
please.
local airport, so I
Yes.
work for myself. That's the beauty of it. So we should definitely go get like a meal and a spa day because I think you guys recently did a spa day, and I was
Yes,
like,
please.
We definitely did.
Yeah. We would love that. We would love that.
Okay, wait. I'm feeling inspired right now that she needs to join us for our
Sign off.
sign off. So usually we say any F word. We always say we're fab, we're fat, we're friends, and then we like are trying to add in other F words. So you can pick one of those F words, and Allie has to find a new one.
It's going to be inappropriate. I already have one in mind, but
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Well, I'm gonna start us off because I'm gonna be real easy. We're fat.
fabulous.
Friends.
and we fuck.
I knew it. I knew it. That's why I did. I was like, I'm gonna let Allie take this one.
God bless.
I love that for us so much. We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.